9-letter word cross. Oh, superstar. Hey, on today's show, we're talking about accomplishment in STEM and education and everything ed tech. All that and much more up next on the EduTechGuys.
You're listening to the EduTechGuys. EduTechGuys.com. Hello and welcome to EduTechGuys. I'm David Henderson.
Hey, I'm Jeff Matlock.
Yeah, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for tuning in, turning on, downloading, grabbing the digits.
Man, that was an accomplishment in itself right there, getting all that out.
It was.
Let's see if I can spell. Hey, check us out on the web, EduTechGuys.com, at the C-O-M at the end if you were wondering. Hey, just go out to Google, look us up, you'll find us staring back at you.
I feel like this is going to be like the Wordle episode. We're spelling everything. This is like Wheel of Fortune. Vanna, I'd like to buy a vowel.
You know, every time I think of vowels, I go back to like, kindergarten, first grade, and they go A-E-I-O-U, and sometimes, okay, that's it.
Sorry. Listen, I can't do my right and left without putting my hand over my heart, which, this is so off topic of where we were going, but I'm just going to say this. Those of us of a certain age, right, when we were growing up, we put our right hand over the left side of our body for our heart. Mm-hmm. Now people tell you to put it in the middle.
Right.
When did our hearts move? When did they move? Did they just migrate to the middle?
Actually, they were built that way. They are actually there in the middle. It was
why then were we all putting our hands on our left breasts?
Government conspiracy. That's how.
I guess so. That was just part of the.
It's just easier. What are you, lazy? It's like you're pissed off because you had to move your hand 5 more inches to the left.
Yes, kids today should have to put their hands 5 more inches to the left.
That's why they're not as strong as we were back in the 70s.
That's the matter with these kids today.
You're not putting your hand over your left side of your heart. You're not riding bicycles in the street. You're not drinking from a water hose. That's what's doing it.
That's exactly right.
Gosh darn it.
You don't even have a Stretch Armstrong, for crying out loud.
Have you ever had to duck and cover? You ever had to get in a hallway and crouch down and, into a ball for a tornado drill?
Oh, hide under your desk for the nuclear bomb? That was my favorite. What the heck was that about?
I don't know.
Anyway.
I think that dates us.
Well, something should.
Yeah. You know what? Yeah, that's what's wrong with these kids. All they have to do is put a mask on. You know how hard that is? You have to raise your hand over your head to get your mask on.
Oh.
I was driving in this morning and I thought, accomplishment. We've been talking about things and we talk about what we're teaching in school and and we look back on what we did, like accomplishment, learning to ride a bike. It's really interesting. If you're on social media, you see a lot of people whose kids don't know how to ride a bike. I mean, I'm watching videos of people in their 20s that go, I finally learned to ride a bike. What the heck, man? In my neighborhood, you got, ridiculed and shamed if you didn't know how to ride a bike. What you doing walking? You're 4. Why aren't you riding a bike?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
You got problems with you.
You don't come out with a huffy?
But when you think about that accomplishment thing, accomplishment is a huge thing. There's group accomplishment, which ties to personal accomplishment, and that's a big word for us to use today. I'm struggling with it. Accomplishment. But personal accomplishment, whether external or internal, is a really big deal, and I know it drives our students. And as we move into STEM and we move into coding and we move into ed tech and all this stuff, a lot of that is going to be this internal satisfaction of accomplishment. And I'm thinking about Explore Media and the National STEM Challenge.
Sure,
because they invited all these students from every state, Puerto Rico, DC, all over, to submit their big plan. And it wasn't a group of students; it was a student from each one. That's really cool because that's pushing the idea of individual accomplishment.
Oh yeah.
And I would guess that most of those things were also their ideas and their plans that would engage other people, though. So it's like I could accomplish this by creating this, and it would involve these other people. So
yeah.
Am I getting way out there on that accomplishment?
No, I mean I definitely I think that's certainly one type of accomplishment and one kind of one avenue of looking at accomplishment. I think I don't know. I look back to my early tech years when we were all installing stuff like Renaissance star reading, and which I still have. But back in my day, it was the way we got installed, et cetera. But that's a sidebar. I'm bird walking. It's a little yellow guy tweets in my ear. So he, but in terms of accomplishment, one of the things that a lot of schools still use are AR points, right? So you're getting rewarded for reading so many books, reading on a certain level, and then in turn, yes, they can in a lot of places they can in turn take those points and quote unquote buy stuff, exchange those points for trinkets and goodies and whatever else they do. But there's also that sense of accomplishment that student feels when they get to a certain point level, or when they are able to, achieve X amount of points because they've been working hard to get that one particular prize that they've been looking for. And so, I think when we're talking about accomplishment, and we have there's so many different types of accomplishment. And I know, the psychology folks out there can be like, well, it's, pretty much down to intrinsic, extrinsic. I get all that. That's fine. And those that may not know, intrinsic means that you internalize your rewards come from within yourself. Extrinsic are like the rewards from the outside. You get paid, you get, trinkets, you get whatever.
Thank you for shaming me there for saying external and internal. Just that's okay.
Well, my point is, and I'm not trying to belabor this, but my point is that to me it's like the artwork on the refrigerator.
Yeah,
that's when you think about an accomplishment. For some kids, it's their achievement, their accomplishment is that their parents or whoever they live with, their caretakers, recognize their work as something that should be displayed on the refrigerator. And other kids, when it's displayed, it's more like, yeah, I did that, man. I don't care if you liked it or not. I did it.
Yeah. I'm sorry, caretaker made me giggle because it's just
it's just guardian. Sorry. Well,
see, then I think Guardians of the Galaxy. I am such an 11-year-old right now, and I apologize.
You don't have to be. We're having fun.
Are we having fun?
Talking about accomplishments. Look at everything you're accomplishing right now.
But it's interesting. Accomplishment. I'm a musician. That's
sure.
And for me, it's can I make it through a whole piece with not screwing up everything? So, but That's really interesting because it's been around forever, especially intrinsic. It is. I think what we've lost in some places is it's like you say about AR points. We shouldn't have to reward you. We should be teaching you, training you, creating an environment where you crave intrinsic, where you crave to just do it for you. The norm is, I want to do this because this means I achieved this. And what everyone else thinks, think about, here in the South forever it was, I ain't scared. Mm-hmm. We saw those stickers everywhere. And I get where that comes from. Who cares what everybody else thinks? Be your own, sing your own song, dance your own dance, buy the shoes, whatever. There's that thing. I wish that we could figure out a way to make that even more important in the way we're training those kids, educating those students. At an early age, like, this is, you did it, and we say that you did it. Now you can go pick out a treat, or you did it. Now you can get a toy, and that started when we were kids. I don't know if this happened when I remember going to the dentist as a child. You go to the dentist and get your teeth cleaned, and then you went in and you swished that ugly, terrible fluoride stuff. And then you got to go to the treasure box and get a little toy out of it or something, or they gave you a sticker. You remember that? So, I was like, I'm going to go to the dentist and get me a little tiny ping pong paddle that's going to last for 2 hours. But everything's been this reward system. And some of the biggest thinkers and the biggest creators, that reward has only been intrinsic for them. If you really take a look at it, it's like, Elon Musk, his was just, that doesn't count. Jeff Bezos, but no, that one doesn't count either.
Anybody who's got a YouTube channel who's looking at their subscriber.
Yeah,
anybody who's doing a podcast and is looking at their, oh, wait, never mind.
Yeah. Look, 26 listens.
I'm starting with the man in the mirror.
Yeah, you're a smooth criminal. Anyway, but I don't know. To me, that's but looking back at STEM and coding, some of the students, my former students over these 30 years, I've got a lot of coders out there, and to them it is an intrinsic win. I've been working on these 800 lines of code for 2 weeks, debugging like crazy, and I finally I'm not only the creator, I am the debugger. I'm the one that created it, caused the problems, and fixed it. And that's a big win for them. The same thing with playing these 4/16 notes finally correctly in this fast piece of music. I finally got that. Oh, great, you finally got it. It took me 3 weeks to get it, but I worked up to it, and that gets us to something that I think everything has to come back down to, and that's practice. And we don't do homework anymore, and that's something we don't talk about, and teachers don't give homework anymore. But there is that practice, and I can tell you as a musician or as a sports, as an athlete, in sports, music, in anything, if you don't practice it, then you're not going to get better at it. You're going to peak and hit that ceiling, and you're never going to cross past that, because you've achieved everything you can do with just the natural ability that you have.
And I think that is one of the and I could be in the minority here, and I don't care really. But I think that's one of the biggest disservices that education ever did to student learning, was to somehow allow the term homework to infiltrate and infect education. And yes, when I was a kid going up through school, it was homework, but I had one teacher, and she called it practice. We didn't have homework in her class. We had practice. You are going to practice this, and this is why you're practicing this.
And so did she develop it as that, like as practice? Like, your homework really was, I'm practicing doing this mathematics,
and it was,
writing
sentences.
And
and it was homework. I mean, you practiced at home, but she would not use the word homework, didn't, refuse to call it homework. And she said, it's not homework. It's not work that you are doing at home. Technically, yes, it is, but it is practice so that you get better at whatever it was we were learning at the time.
Yeah.
And that was, like I said, I just had one teacher ever in my entire, 54 years of life at this point. I've only had one teacher who ever referred to it as practice. And I truly believe that if educators and the administrators would see and get that mindset changed, where this is not homework. This is practice so you can get better and feel more comfortable doing it. Right. I think part of the reason why a lot of people, quote, hate math is because the practice is hard for a lot of folks. And it really is. It is treated as homework, with emphasis on work more than anything. And I truly think that.
But practice is hard. Practice
is hard. You're right. I mean, how do you get to Carnegie Hall? So, actually you go down Fifth Avenue.
You mean Carnegie Mellon? It's right down here. The emergency room's on the first floor. No,
listen, I used to live near Carnegie.
I don't like melons.
But whether they're Carnegie, cantaloupes, I don't care. All the melons. Cocoa. I don't like cocoa. No, I'm just kidding. It's chocolate watermelon. Who wants chocolate? We digress often. But my point being that I think that if we could somehow kind of change that conversation, then getting back to the topic of accomplishment, those are some of the times that I felt the most accomplished, when I was going through those practice items and working through those and being able to do those without having to have all of the steps or all of the hints and helps that went with it, and go, holy cow, I get it. I see now.
Yeah.
One of my favorite was, I had a really hard time. This is so bizarre, but I had a really hard time when I was taking French in high school with the United States, saying the United States in French.
Los Unidos Estados. No, I don't know. That's I don't even know if that's Spanish. I don't know.
Os Estados Unidos. Oh no, Os Estados Unis. Something along that.
Oui.
Something along those lines. It's been a long time since I've had it, so forgive me, anybody out there who is cringing
all
at
I
the
can
butchering.
say to you is escargot.
That's right. So, but my where I'm going with all that is the sense of accomplishment when back in those days when I did figure it out after practicing for so long.
Yeah.
That was completely, that was all on me. I mean, sure, I got to do it for the class, and the teacher was like, "Oh, great job, you finally got it after freaking how many weeks?" But but ultimately, the sense of accomplishment came from within me that I had done this thing.
Yeah. Well, and that's the cool part about practice, especially we're talking about that, learning that in French. You got to do it in front of the class, on the wagon trail, when you guys pulled over to water the horses. But I'm just thinking of you. But that's the thing about practice is, but the moment you did it, there was still someone else that was ahead of you, and there was someone else behind you.
Oh, sure.
And you used practice, and you probably said, "I practiced it, and I practiced it," and someone in the class went, "Oh, maybe I need to practice on that." And I think you're exactly right. So there is that mindset change that we need to bring it back, and we need to talk about practice. We need to do this, and it's not easy. I can tell you, I'm just using music because it's what I do.
Yeah, sure.
If you've got a piece that's cooking along, at quarter note equals 120, and it's full of 16th notes, it's moving pretty good. It's moving right along there. And if you can't play it, you know what you do? You cut it in half. And right, you break it down. You do this stuff, and it takes time. So if I cut it in half and I keep adding 10 beats, I'm going to get to 120 in 2 weeks. But that's okay. And you've got to realize that some of us can do it in a week, and some of us can do it in a day, and some of us it takes 2 months or 2 years. But that's okay. The practice thing is wonderful. We talk about reading to children all the time. You've got to read to your kids. You've got to read to your kids. And it's interesting. I'm not calling out people because I'm probably in the same thing. I read to my girls when they were little. Mm-hmm. Sure, we did. But we should have had them read to us. And it would have been more productive and more of an accomplishment for them for us to get through 1 or 2 pages in that 15 minutes before bedtime or 20 or whatever you were doing, and not read a whole book. Yeah. And had gotten through that, and they learned through practice to get to it. And maybe that's where it is. The humdrum and not the humdrum, but the daily grind gets to us, and it's just easier for me to read a book. Let's read a book. Okay, everybody in the bed, let's read this book. And we're going to read this book, and I'm done in 8 minutes, and Danny's with the dinosaur, and we're moving on.
Right.
Go to sleep. So I think that might be something, and that's gonna have to start in the classroom. And people say, "Well, what? That starts at the family." Not if we bring practice back instead of homework. And they go, "Well, this is what teacher does." And there's the next thing: how many times do we get in a circle and the teacher reads it to the group in a circle? And admittedly, it's been a long time since I've been in an elementary classroom. Never. And But, I can say that would be awfully hard. Well, yeah, you've got 20 kids, let's say, and that's a large class in today's standards. I understand that. So it takes you a month for each kid to get 1 day. And that's not cool.
Yeah.
I mean, because, that's just so I'm on the first of the month, and I get to wait an entire month before I get to read again in front of the classroom.
Well, and I wonder, when we were in school, we would have to, the teacher would say, okay, we're going to start, we're all going to read chapter 3, and you're going to read a sentence, and the next person is going to read a sentence or a paragraph or however long it is, and you went around the room. And so then, and I don't know if that still even takes place. I'd be interested to hear from anybody out there if that's something that's well. Okay, granted, I wasn't particularly thrilled with it myself. What I mainly did was I didn't hear a thing anybody said because I was too busy counting up, the paragraphs, to where I was supposed to read, and invariably I'd be wrong by 1 or 2. I'd be off one way or the other, and be like, "That's not what I practiced in my head."
You Vegas card counter, you.
That's right. I was a Vegas card. I was a Vegas word counter.
All right, I think it's going to be this one. This is going to be what it is. Right. What voice am I going to use?
That explains why I am not good at gambling.
Yeah, that's it. But so we talk about accomplishment, and real quick, teacher accomplishment. I mean. And I'm going to put my, my 2 cents in about testing. This is getting crazy.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you're moving along in your classroom. You feel like you're accomplishing stuff. And it's not going to be keel across the board. You're going to have your ups and downs. You're going to have your kids that are going to really succeed and those that are going to struggle. But when you get to the end of the year and they take these tests and they come back and go, your campus has a D or an F or a C or anything but an A. And, you take all that feeling of accomplishment that I've created as a classroom teacher and you've thrown it right out the window. I mean, that's the worst feeling in the world where, and we all deal with it. You mow the whole yard and, your dad or parent comes home and you go, hey, I mowed the whole yard. And they went, well, you missed those over there and that patch looks terrible and you didn't do this.
Yes.
It's that forest for the trees thing.
Yeah.
And I hate to see our educators. And when you think about it, you have to ask yourself, what opportunities for accomplishment do our educators have? And if they don't have multiple avenues for accomplishment, how can they conceptualize the idea of providing multiple avenues for accomplishment for their students in their classroom?
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, right?
Yep.
I mean, if I've never seen a symphony orchestra, how would I even know what I'm trying to achieve on my one violin?
Right.
I mean, I don't know what I'm trying to achieve.
Sure.
Because I don't know what the overall, and vice versa.
Yeah.
If I'm conducting I don't know. I don't know what you accomplished. I'm just going to throw this stick at you. So I don't know.
Yes.
Oops, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, I've got 12 more. So, but it was on my brain and I thought it'd be a good talk to talk about it. And if anything, it's just a nice little bit of, water to add to the glass for those listeners who might be thinking about the same thing. And,
right.
And we'll be, let's start this grassroots movement of let's get, practice back from the classroom to the house.
Exactly.
House practice.
House practice.
Home practice. Practice work.
No work. I mean, it is work. We don't want to call it work.
Minute work.
Minute work.
From a land down under. Boy, we are so 80s. It's ridiculous. Oh, we just lost those Gen Z kids. Dang it.
Well, there you go.
All three of those listeners gone. Hey, listen, if you have some ideas, if you know some things we should talk about or, especially about this, about accomplishment and all that good stuff, let us know. And, hey, don't forget about the National STEM Challenge coming up. And visit Explore, EXPLR.com and take a look. And you can also just look up the National STEM Challenge. Actually, that's the website, National STEM Challenge. So look those up. Take a look at those. It's going to be a fun time for everyone. And, don't forget to give us a little love out there on the social media. EduTechGuys, EduTechGuys. We are everywhere.
We are.
Be sure to check under your bed before you go to sleep. All right.
Little squeak you got there.
Squeak. Squeak, squeak. Was it squeaking?
No, it was you.
Was it me squeaking?
Yeah, you didn't catch it.
I didn't catch it.
Jeff's 50 going on 13.
Yes,
a little squeak in his voice.
Say. Hey, I'm Jeff Madlock.
I'm David Henderson.
We'll catch you next time.
You've been listening to the EduTech Guys, edutechguys.com.